welcome to episode 54 of Mr. Industries' Ford Falcon 351 Crusty Wagon project. Now, it's the Christmas holidays and while I'm at home, because it's a weekday and I don't have any plans for the day, I thought I should get into the garage and do something useful, because there are still things I need to do with this car, and since this is post-Christmas, I have a windscreen washer bottle to install. Now this is a factory reproduction that sits in the factory spot like that, and the mission for today's episode is to get this fitted in next to the battery, figure out how the battery is going to locate itself, and tidy up all the wiring here so this all makes sense, so I can plop that in there, run my windscreen washers for the roadworthy purposes, and tick that thing off my to-do list. So my wife got me this mainly because I said, hey, if you want to get me something for Christmas, I've got my eye on this and I would dearly like it. So she got me my water bottle, factory water bottle, to go in the factory spot to kind of complete this engine bay. Now, I didn't do a factory water bottle in my sedan because I had all this real estate on the other side of the engine bay where I could just drop a generic water bottle in, so that's what I went with that. But since the sedan is a non-air conditioned car, I can get away with that. But my air conditioned car has all of this air conditioning guff in the way, so factory water bottle it is to go over in the factory spot. So as I suspected, the bottle fits straight in, but it takes up some valuable battery tray space, and the battery tray doesn't want to accommodate my regular sized Falcon battery without some modifications. So I'm going to pull that tray out, trim that lug that's been welded into the battery that doesn't let the battery sit flush, reinstall, and figure out a way of getting my Super Tip Autos battery stay to work. I have that up there. Every single Ford I've ever had has had a Super Tip Autos battery stay in it because they're cheap and they work and the car gets roadworthy. So I'm going with that. I just need to accommodate this bottle, which I've never bothered to buy before because anyway, let's soldier on. Okay, I've used a piece of trusty guard cut off and I'm going to weld another eyelet to this battery tray so that I can fit this battery into the tray adjacent to my new water bottle. Now, it also had a spacer in there which inhibited me from sliding the battery any further this way, so I've chopped that out. So hopefully once this gets welded in, this battery will fit in this tray nice and tidily with the hole down, and I'll be able to fit my water bottle in next to it and plumb everything together so it works. So I'll get the welder fired up and I'll try to tack this in without blowing holes through everything, because this is pretty thick but it's pretty rusty, but I've cleaned it up as best I can and I'll have a crack at welding it. Alright, battery tray modified. I should theoretically just be able to put that battery into that tray. Get my battery into the tray. All the way to that side. Pretty good. that is probably going to work just fine. So let's bung the battery tray back in and try this all over again and see if I've got clearance for the various things. I might have to lock that off. We'll see how we go. Okay, progress update. I have stripped all the wires out of the loom that runs to the alternator and to the temperature switch. No longer go to this part of the car now. I suspect the old school wiring loom that went with this car, obviously the coil would have been here. So we would have a coil wire and a tack wire running to here, possibly a wire to run the electronic choke, if that was such a thing. So I've actually got two wires over here. I'm not sure what the origins are, so I've got two that are tacho and coil, and I've got this red power wire here which is 12 volts at ignition. I'm not exactly sure what that wire is for, and I've got this brown wire here with a pink tracer. I also have a brown wire with a pink trace up here as well, so I've got a sneaky suspicion if I cut this tape back, these two wires would be the same and they wouldn't actually be connected to anything at all, and I could just get rid of that wire. So that'd be good. But what I'm thinking about with this wire is, now correct me if I'm wrong, but back in 1977 these cars came out with a ballast resistor that ran to the coil. Now I don't know where the ballast resistor is in these cars, but I had this problem with the sedan and it gave my distributor ignition system a low voltage problem, so it just wouldn't work very well and the car continued to stall. And that sorted itself out when I put the MSD into my sedan, and it completely overloaded the ignition circuit and wouldn't let it run, which was cured as soon as I ran a relay to the ignition circuit with a solid power source to the distributor, and then miraculously my stalling issues disappeared and the car's been faultless ever since. So I'd like to avoid that by figuring out which of these wires, this beefy red wire here which has 12 volts on it with the ignition on, which of these wires would be the best choice. I mean, this is definitely the coil wire because I have looked at the wiring diagram and traced it, and that is indeed the coil wire, so that should theoretically have ballast resistor in the circuit somewhere. So what would make the most sense to me would be to use this 12 volt feed that goes into there for whatever reason. I can't think of anything other than electric choke. Maybe that's the electric choke feed, but it's got 12 volts on it, so thinking I'll use that as my coil wire. And obviously I'll maintain the tack wire as that one. I'll cut that one out because I don't think it does anything, and I'll just snip this one off at the bottom of the loom and leave it be for the time being, and once the car's on the road and driving around I'll be able to figure out what's going on. And speaking of getting on the road, you can see here I have plumbed in the existing hosing for the motor, and I've also plugged in the plug from the harness, so all that stuff was conveniently positioned right there where it's supposed to be as a factory washer bottle. Now I just have a few more things to do with this wiring, and then we can test it out and see if it actually works. Oh, how good would it be? I mean, the car was pretty crusty, so I'm not going to rule out the possibility that my spray jets are full of crud. But we're not going to know until I run some water through the whole thing and see what happens. So that's where I'm at. Rest assured, this will look much tidier when I turn the camera back on, probably after I have a coffee. So hang tight and I'll update progress after I've done some more exploring. Alright, I've had my coffee and I've read my Gregory's manual and gone over the wiring diagram, and I've learned nothing. So I'm going to go with my original hypothesis, and I'll run that red wire to my coil because it should have a solid 12 volt feed, and I will run the tack wire as is, and I will pair back the other two wires into a position in the loom that I can make them safe, and then move forward from there. Right, I'm just going to double check to make sure that the wires are doing what I think they're supposed to be doing. So I'll put the ignition onto accessory and make sure none of the wires that I think shouldn't have power have power. If that makes any sense at all. No power for the ignition wires on the accessory circuit. We don't want that. Alright, I have the accessory circuit on. So whatever this wire does should hopefully have nothing on it. And it has nothing on it, so that's good. This is the coil wire. That should also have nothing on it with the accessories up. It has nothing on it too, so that's good. Right, I'll put the ignition on. Okay, so now they should both have 12-ish volts on them. Now, just because it has 12 volts on the meter doesn't mean it's going to have 12 volts when it's under load, so that's got 12.49, so that's pretty decent. And the coil wire, nope, we're all good. The coil wire is 12.48, so it's more or less the same, but if there's a ballast resistor in here, theoretically under load, it's supposed to deliver a lower voltage for a ballast resistor coil, which is what these cars had back in the day. Now with modern ignition systems and modern coil setups, nobody uses ballast resistors anymore, so as time goes on, the coils get upgraded, the ignitions get upgraded, but the coil circuit still has that ballast resistor lurking somewhere in the background. And as I said, I don't know where it is, so I'm just going to use this other red wire to run my ignition, and I'll see if that causes any dramas in the future once this car's on the road. So mark this as a point in time where I set it, and hopefully it works out and I don't have any dramas. But that Bosch ignition needs full voltage, so does that coil because it's a high energy coil, so let's go with that. Volts. It's got very thick insulation on it for whatever reason. There's my little cheetah wiring loom that I rigged up when I first built the car. Put it back together again. So obviously this can afford to be much shorter now. Should I solder this? Should I do it properly? Nah. Let's just use this chocolate block because it's reversible. I don't have to unsolder it if I decide I've done the wrong thing. So I'll need the black with white feed. Get rid of that. So the black with white feed is the wire I have running to the positive side of the coil over there on the other side of the car. So I'll put my chocolate block back together down here. And it should all make sense. I should probably fire the car up to make sure it works, shouldn't I? That would be handy. So make sure I'm not stuffing this up. Well, obviously I've got to test the water bottle anyway, so what I think I'll do is I'll fire the car up, test the water bottle, and obviously if the car runs, then win. I've done the right thing, and everything is as it should be. But if the car doesn't fire up, I've stuffed something up, and I will reverse all of the butchery that I'm currently undertaking in the hope that I can fix whatever it is that I've done wrong. Because I love an ad hoc solution. I love ad hoc solutions a lot. Here's my taco wire. Coil wire I don't need. I'll just snip that off. Taco wire. Yeah. Tuck that into there. As I discussed earlier, I don't know what this wire does. I don't see any indication that it has any use. So I'm just going to snip it off, leave a bit of a tail in the loom in case I find a use for it later on, but I will just tape that up. And this should theoretically run the car. Time to put a little bit of water into my washer bottle, because I might have to come back out again for whatever reason, so let's not get too carried away filling it up. Time to see if the car catches fire when I start it up. It should be fine, but we'll see how we go. I should probably move the camera over where the squirters are, shouldn't I? Otherwise this will all be for naught. Success! Well, mostly successful. I've actually got a leak coming out of there, so I might need That's cracked, that's why. No. Well, that'll be an easy fix. I'm pretty sure I've got those in a drawer somewhere, and if I don't, Super Always definitely has some, so let's count that as a win. Car runs, wiring's tidy, my water squirty thing works for the roadworthy, even my wipers work. Look at that clean window. Things are getting close. Well, I thought I had a T-piece, but as it turns out I've got too big, too small, and not T-pieces. Oh well, it's mostly there. I've got time. I'm going to go to Super Autos now because it's still another hour and 10 minutes before it shuts. Gives me plenty of time to dash up there, grab the connectors that I want, and wrap this project up today. So let's go do that. You don't need to see me drive Super Autos. Been there, done that. And I'm back. I have my 5mm T-junctions, and this should be all I need to wrap this project up. So we'll put the camera there. I will apply these junctions, this one junction, and then we'll try the squirter again and we'll see how it all works out. Where's my hose gone? On you go. Alright, so that's sorted out. Ignition on. Right, summary time for episode 54 of Mr. Industries' Ford Falcon 351 Crusty Wagon project. Now, from the outset of today's video, the intention was to tidy up the wiring, relocate the battery so I can fit my OEM reproduction window washer bottle in, and those things have been accomplished. The battery is sitting a bit further forward in the engine bay now to accommodate the reproduction water bottle. I have also tidied up the wiring harness. All the wires that were going to this area to run the various things that it did have been pared back and redirected, so only the wires that need to go there run there now, and the rest have been either cut off or repurposed for other uses. So good result, and at this stage the car runs and the wipers work and the water squirters work too, even though I had a broken T-junction, which was easily resolved with a trip to Super Cheap Autos in the dying hours of the afternoon. So excellent result. Now this is probably going to be the last video for 2004 for this build series, and since January is typically holiday time for most people, I'm not sure when I'm going to get a roadworthy for this thing in 2025, but rest assured I will start attempting sometime late January, early February. That is the plan. I want to be driving this car around so I can resolve other things like the air conditioning needing a regas and whatever else that air conditioning needs to get working, because the whole point of this exercise is for me to get an air and steer chrome bumper car so I can enjoy those comforts and also the old schoolness. So that's it for this episode, and have a happy new year everybody. I'll see you next year. So I'll push that one down as much as I can. Maybe you just have to blip it or something because it literally strafed the bloody roller door. That's better. Oh, straight over the roof. I'll try again. Oh, it's definitely hitting the roller door.
I was just saying it's flipping with that.
Just flip it. Turn the wipers on. Wipers? No, it's not like that. You gotta rotate that button. Keep rotating until they turn on. Hey, there we go. Now just hit the. Just turn. Hey, that's fine.